Hey guys, TraderNap here. Just going to go through what I like to set up for a chart display on Tradingview. I'm going from scratch so that people have a reference for what it looks like. From a new view here, which is unnamed as mentioned, the first thing I'd like to do is have two displays. I like to have them synced on the symbol only along with the drawings. This means for me that I have a high time frame on the right side of the chart and I have a smaller time frame on the left side of the chart. You'll notice I prefer day on this side, which is highlighted. I prefer 1 minute on the left side, which is also highlighted. You want to make sure you have extended time frames on here, as mentioned. It will show EXT if you're looking at this on a stock ticker. That's just part of how I operate. I'm also on heikin-ashi candles, as they are referred to. This is just my preference for smoothing out momentum and the way that a chart moves. Now let's get into the indicators that I like to use. One of the indicators I like to use is linear regression. You'll also notice I'm using TradingView Pro, and I also have real-time data. It says market closed up here, but during the day this will be green to show if you're having real-time data. So let's go into the kind of stuff that I tend to like. The first on the list is linear regression. This makes a channel on your charts. This channel is by default set to 100 periods. That's not my preference. I like 200. Just because it's more data, it's a little more smooth. I do tend to do this on all my charts. So I will also configure for all my charts. You'll notice there's no option to sync indicator, so you kind of have to go back and forth. Another indicator that I like to do is Ttm Squeeze. I find this to be a nice reference. I specifically like the greeny one. I like to use this as a general momentum view. I put it below the chart. As you'll note, you can move that stuff around in TradingView if you click the plus, move it up or down. Another one I like is Fisher. Fisher is more momentum of the same, but a little bit different. I go with Mort's solution here, and I put that on the larger time frame only because that's really the only place I use it. I don't like these little arrows here. I find them to be useless. I tend to turn that off. And I tend to change the time frame as well. So I go in here and I do trend, change, shape, and I turn that off. And I go in here and I do not have a color bars. I do not use chart interval. I change it to the average, open, high, low, close 4, and I change it to weekly view. So what this means is I can see how the weekly trend is changing as it happens. Even though this is more than a week long, this is a month, you can kind of see where it went from bearish and topped out to, if you were watching carefully and you started to see it hit here where it started to kind of go the other way, to moving the other direction. This does not mean it's done, and you'll notice there's a difference between this and Ttm Squeeze. Another indicator I am a big fan of that I put on all my charts is linear regression. Again, you've seen this one already. Slope from Emilio. Linear regression slope lets you, and you'll notice it's right there on the chart for now, which will be explained in a moment. Linear regression slope. Linear regression slope shows you where the actual linear regression is. It does correlate to that other chart, but you'll see what I do with it in a minute. This is what makes all the difference. I click down here to new object tree, and I put linear regression slope on its own. Let me see if I can get this right here. Let me see if I can move it right. I've had this problem before. Move to new pane below. There we go. Now you have linear regression slope on its own pane, and suddenly it's more visually representative. That's what I like to do. So linear regression slope, move to new pane below. There. So I like to do this to look at a chart. I find it's better than the linear regression at the top of the channel because it moves with time and gives you historically past the 200 periods you set up above. I don't even bother going beyond that. I just go with the defaults. Now, obviously, I do want volume on my charts. That's important to me. I don't care about volume MA despite it being a thing. Um, One other one I'm a fan of is Bender's chart. Bender's on chart alpha. I like that. And I like Bender's off chart alpha. And what I do with Bender's off chart alpha, which you'll notice is still on here, I put it on top of Ttm Squeeze. Something about this just clicks for me with the momentum. So what I tend to do is I put them together like this because they don't exactly follow. You see the light and the light red and green underneath it. They don't exactly follow each other, but for whatever reason, for me, for my system, they make sense. The red and green is supposed to correlate to general, this is a good time to long and this is a good time to short. But as you'll notice, these are not things that last an extended period of time sometimes, and they should not be used by themselves. TTM is kind of like MACD. It's kind of within the same concept of things. This is a majority of what I do, but not everything. Even on the larger time frame, I like to do the same. So I add Bender's off chart alpha to this one only. I don't really need the on chart because I'm not looking at moving averages on those large of a time frame, but you see I'm grabbing it from this object tree and I'm putting it on the same one as Fisher, or not Fisher, sorry, on the same one as TTM. That way I've got that. So it's like, okay, on a long time frame, this says it is still good to go and be in a long for from this entirety of right here, which is $3 to even right now at 15. I don't think anybody would be complaining about 5 times the value in the first place, but in this case it did run and it kept running. So even though every day per HA and everything else kept going up, it continued to go up. And even now as it has gone down, the things such as the difference in the volume here, huge volume going up, small volume going down, tells me that there is more room to go going forward. I do change the Bender's indicator on how it looks, the on chart alpha. I add show daily VWAP. I make that VWAP huge. I make the opacity maximum so that I can see it all the way through. I do the same thing with the EMAs. I make the EMA nice and thick. I make the low time frame EMA whatever because I don't really care too much. I think I make it green. I make the low time frame other EMA, I make that red, and I also make that thick. This is to reflect on the fact that, well, you know, the indicators don't get exactly touched. But there they are. So now you have daily VWAP, you have 200 MA, and you have 34 MA and a 9 MA following that I could care less about for the most part, but it's there. Daily VWAP is set up to be a stepped line, and I love that. The one other indicator I choose on top of these here is the multi-time frame MAs. This is our personal script, multi-time frame ribbon. I put that on my lower time frame and my larger time frame, but I turn it on and off at will. So like right now, for example, I'm going to turn off linear regression because I don't need it. So I just hit it. These I keep up all the time. So now I'm going to go into the multi-time frame. I'm going to set it to, how about 30 minutes for 8 MAs, and I'm going to uncheck use chart resolution. That way it uses the time frame I'm looking at that I've chosen, which is 30 minutes, that it's not choosing 1 minute. If I have this checked, it shows me these MAs on the 1 minute, which does not help me at all. But if I do that on the 30 minute, all of a sudden your picture of what's going on is much clearer. I can see, oh look, this has been bearish. So on a short time frame with a short expectation, it would be good to be short right now. And you will notice it has tested this MA, went up to the VWAP, went back down. Broke through the VWAP, bounced upwards, stayed up for a bit, went back down. So it ultimately depends on how you want to trade this. And the last indicator that I tend to do on a large time frame that I specifically do for sanity checks